Next pick is coming from Tampa, Len Daly. Now here's a quick story of fun. Len Daly has one of the most memorable home runs in the history of the 1.0 era. When he played for San Francisco, and the GM who shall not be named from the 1.0 universe that was the death of 1.0, in the World Series, he had a game-winning Game 4 walk-off home run, if memory serves. It hit the pole. It wrapped, hit the pole. It was a game winner, and it basically was the momentum that helped San Francisco defeat Chris Holland and the Toronto Blue Jays that particular year. 99% certain on the background story, but 100% certain on Len Daly having the most memorable home run of the 1.0 era, or at least top 3, and I did call that particular game as well too. Not noted as a stellar infielder. He can play a few different positions, but best suited for second base. He's got some quick. He's shown it. He's not the fastest guy out there, but he has some quick, and he has enough talent to make himself serviceable. He was never an all-star. He was just serviceable, and again, had that big home run. Kind of Mark Bellhorn-ish in regards to that home run, because Bellhorn, of course, was a big part of the 2004 Red Sox championship story. Oh, don't even, Cody. We don't want that. All right. So, Daly is selected.
Hello. Thundercats.
First Thundercats call for the day as Sadier cashes in the Mega Boost. All right, Stags are up. We've got 6 minutes left before our next commercial. Again, for those who don't know what you just heard, that was using cashing in 5,000 balls of yarn. 1,000 balls of yarn gets you 1 boost. 5,000 balls of yarn get you 6. All right, pick is in. First selection will be from the Miami Marlins. It is Mason Bryant, a 26-year-old right-hander. He has pitched in 2025 for the Twins, but did not make the majors this past season. The right-hander throws low, mid-90s with the fastball. Good control. He is pretty comfortable with the fastball changeup. Curveball's all right. It's just a tick above average at best. The season he did play, he had just 17 career innings in the major leagues thus far. Did 4.24 in that time. Brian, again, is a low-risk player. He has league minimum, but you've got pretty much 6 years of control if he turns into something very special. All right, so Miami is taken. Next player. Here is only the second Kansas City Royal taken here of late. 24-year-old left-handed pitcher Freddy Cuevas, mid-90s, upper 90s, good control, good knowledge of the strike zone, works the fastball well, tries to use the cutter more particularly away, as does the slider. Could probably use a little bit of work on that. He did have a brief appearance in the majors here, 4 1/3 innings of work, giving up 1 run and striking out 2 this past season. So Freddy Cuevas will get an opportunity to join in Portland. All right, 2 for the Expos here as we try to keep flying through this draft. And again, it might get a little easier because you're only going to get certain teams. We have 9 teams off the board here currently that have had all 5 of their players gone. And if you're just joining us and not sure of what we mean, in this expansion draft, no more than 5 players can leave any particular roster. The game is pulling those players off once we get those spots. So the GMs, Attica Online for Portland and GT Sundown for the Expos, a little bit of gamesmanship sometimes on which particular players they might be selecting. Okay, next pick is in. 3 minutes before the 3 minutes before the next commercial. Alex Lisan from the Yankees. He's a 23-year-old right-hander from California. He has a little bit of batting ability. I would not consider him a two-way player in any way, shape, or form, at least from my knowledge of him. Ground ball focus, works the fastball, sinker, changeup combination. Probably better with the changeup, to be very honest with you. He's a workhorse. He's very nimble with the footwork. He can easily get some extra pickoffs on moves to first and second. Doesn't grade out as stellar in anything, but if we go by sample size for A-plus Tampa this past year, he was 10-7 with an ERA just a tick above 3, and he struck out 122 batters, which is 7.5 per 9 innings. That's still a guy we're taking a chance on here. All right, Yankees have their draft. He can play a hell of a right field. Thundercats. More mega boost earned by this time by Brandon. And next selection will be from the Kansas City Royals. It is right fielder Joel Chevalier. He's a 23-year-old left-hander from Columbus, Ohio. 16th round draft pick back in 2022. Definitely a home run type of hitter. He hit 17 home runs back in rookie ball 2024. Has had a bit of a struggle for it this past year. They only got 190 total plate appearances, so I don't know if he was injured or not. Tall, 6'6", left-handed hitter. He'll be an average fielder, maybe below average at best. He's not quick on the base paths, but again, he tries to drive with the long ball and some extra bases as well. So Chevalier, again, could be a good risk-reward type of player to go with. All right, I'm going to force the commercial here. We're within a minute, so I'll give Attica an opportunity to figure out who he wants to go with next. So we'll step aside for our next commercial break. Again, we got to pay the bills for my daughter going to college. You're watching Fluffy Kitty Ninjas and the 2027 expansion draft. Please don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. We're coming back live here, the 2027 eMLB expansion draft, the first in our 22 real-life years of working doing eMLB. Commissioner LB back here with you. Finishing out the 53rd round will be from the Arizona Diamondbacks. Heading over to Portland, it is Justin Robleski. Robleski is a 26-year-old left-hander. Can have a little bit of offensive potential, but let's look at him on the pitching side. Pretty solid fastball in the mid-90s. He did get 38 saves back in 2025, an A-plus ball. He got immediately jumped up to Triple-A and had the growing pains where he had an ERA just under 6 in 49 innings of work. Might require him needing a little more seasoning, but Robleski, a 26-year-old, turned 27 in the summertime, being acquired here from the Diamondbacks to the Stags. Stags with the 54th pick of the round. The pick is in, and it will be from the New York Yankees. This will be the Yankees' final pick, and it is Mike. Go west, young man, as you will go from New York over to Portland. 9th round pick back in 2021. Great doubles hitter, not known for speed, but in the 39 hits he had in A-plus Tampa this year, he had 12 doubles. So he's definitely an extra base machine. Solid arm for a first baseman, could play some third base, probably a little above average at best, but a decent defender. Good potential for being an extra base hitter, but again, still could use a better offensive credo. Not sure if he's the type of player you invest heavily into or not, but still young, 24-year-old Mike West will go to Portland. All right, that'll take the Yankees off the table, so we now have 10 teams. 1/3 of the original 30 teams are now off the board. You can't draft any player from that organization. So as of this moment, still 1,153 potential players to choose from. Now, Montreal in for 2. And it will be Iverson Rodriguez from Colorado, just the second Rocky currently taken off the board. So 3 more Rockies will be selected here. Iverson Rodriguez, a 24-year-old middle infielder, shortstop, Excellent shortstop, phenomenal hands, great range, and just smooth as silk on turning double plays. Got a little bit of speed, but nothing prominent. He is defensive first, speed second, hitting third. Not a big hitter, just hit 223 for AAA Albuquerque. He should have taken a left turn at Albuquerque if I didn't see one. Iverson Rodriguez, go Canada. Get your visa, you're going to Canada, sir. All right, next selection is in. It'll be Eddie McDermott from the Phillies. Phillies are now off the board. Eddie McDermott, outfielder, corner specialist. This is a 1.0 guy. Played for the Miami Marlins, or then the Florida Marlins, back in the 1.0 era. He was a little capable on everything. He could hit for average when he needed to. As you see, he hit 303. He's just not a real power type. As you see, in 2025, he had 12 total home runs. So he'll hit you in the teens. He'll play capable, respectable defense. Just not much of an arm. Think a right-handed Johnny Damon type of player, but not the speed of a Damon. And enough offense to definitely be a threat and at least be a role player. I would never say that McDermott was ever an all-star, although that was kind of the hype. He was highly rated, he was highly drafted, but he never performed to the level, and it could be because then, not knocking Eddie, the Florida Marlins here, still a top 5 draftee, and the 1.0 Marlins weren't that much different, so it might be that they could easily work around him. But McDermott, I like seeing. He was always a good story to tell then. Might even be a better story to tell now. But he is the last of the Phillies. Phillies are now off the board, back over to Portland as they make their next selection. Don't know. They might know nothing of him. All right. The next selection is in. Snellzilla is heading to Portland. Wow, $39 million contract for Blake Snell. He could opt out this year. And do you think he's going to opt out with guaranteed $164 million the next 4 seasons? I think not. Blake Snell was 11-13 with an ERA just under 5 this year. You see the years that he won. He's a 4-time Cy Young Award winner. Definitely a butts in seats kind of guy. He still has over 2,000 career strikeouts. You got to assume, again, he's going to turn 34 here next sim week. I think this is an interesting one, a very risky one. But again, an absolute butts in seats kind of guy. And maybe one of your last big contracts you take a gamble on. Blake Snell going to go just north and head to Portland, but he'll stay in the West, just now in the American League. And the Dodgers just became a big spender candidate in free agency because they lost both Cody Bellinger and Blake Snell. All right. Portland. What is your second pick here to start off round number 56? This could be an interesting one. From the Oakland Athletics, Frankie Montas. Montas' days as a starter, maybe numbered. He's 33 years old. Oh, of course, Maury's still on the board.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Of course, Maury's still on the board. Cardley board. Oh, wait. No, wait. Maury is not on the board because the Angels are done. My bad. The Dodgers are now done. And now Montas is the 4th or 5th. I think Montas is the 4th Athletic. So Montas last season, 7-13, flat 5 ERA in 30 starts. Doesn't strike him out the way he used to. 105 strikeouts for Montas. Here's his credo, just over 1,000 career strikeouts in his time. He will turn 34 before the regular season begins next year. But look at it this way. He's $1.5 million. That's not very expensive to take a gamble. If he pans out and gives you bottom 5 of the order production, maybe he serves a purpose for you for the season. Frankie Bonas is now with Portland. Now let's close out Oakland, as Adbert Alzolay will be the final Athletic selected. Now Alzolay, near $7 million. He was a former starter, and you see the record. 14 wins a couple of years ago with a 3.5 ERA. He still pitches fairly serviceably, although his whip is trending more higher. He's not striking out people like he did in 2025, in a small sample, of course. But he is giving up a bit more of the long ball here of late, maybe a victim of the movement change in 2023. But he is 31, a player that if he produces well enough, you could probably take a gamble and do a low-risk extension on. Maybe. Throws a fastball, curveball, changeup combination. Again, this is a guy that probably could be better as a starter. For at least his price tag might be seriously considered for it. But other than that, Alzolay, good gamble pick here by the Expos at this time. Next selection, as now the Athletics are closed out for the Red Sox. We'll do this after this round. Ruben Quevedo. Quevedo is from the 1.0 universe as well. I remember Quevedo against not Carmen Quezada. Cristobal Rodriguez. I remember that matchup being a memorable one for guys who were kind of in their overall lifetime performance. Quevedo, 26-year-old right-hander, has pitched in Portland this past 3 seasons. Did see some Winter League the season prior. 24 starts, 3.8 ERA. Just never had the record, but frankly, the Red Sox minor leagues have never really performed stellar, so that's not a terrible thing. This could be a nice value play for a guy who throws 3 pitches. Fastball is predominantly what he focuses on. Yeah, they probably haven't been talked about very much. So the one knock on Quevedo was he gave up a lot of whip, mostly hits. Again, that there's a little more focus, that has improved, but he's not a strikeout specialist. That's the big thing. He's a pitch to contact, tries to rely on the movement to try to get guys out. But again, a guy you got complete control over. Why not take the chance? Quevedo is drafted. Red Sox are now down to 1 final player, and the Stags are up for 2. Yeah, he's leaving East Coast Portland. Matt Graham is a 1.0 player. This was a guy who could hit for average, who could be stingy about being struck out, and played slightly above average offense back in his 1.0 days. He will be the 4th Royal, if memory serves, being selected. Graham this past season played A+ ball. 1 home run since 2024, but he hit that .311. So again, a guy who's capable of hitting offensively, just not a power guy in any way, shape, or form. I'd say he's your traditional number 8 type of hitter, where you're looking for him to get on base, maybe even have him hit 9th if you put a speedy number 8 guy in front of you, and looking for him to get on base. If he had a little bit better plate discipline, I might say he's more of a traditional number 2 type of hitter here. So Matt Graham selected from Kansas City. One more selection for Portland here. Teams who still have a lot of players to pick. Toronto has 4 more players to be selected. Cincinnati has 4 more players to be selected. Pittsburgh, 4 more players to be selected. Now we'll play the game. Which organization is the last organization to be emptied out? We'll call them the Mr. Irrelevance. If I didn't say it earlier, I did say thanks to Sparks earlier. Cardly Board, thank you for hitting the follow if you're still here. Welcome to Fluffy Kitty Ninjas. Attica says, Sec, I shot myself in the foot. Oh, that gives me time to jump in a boss battle. Can we get Fluffy out? I haven't even been able to pay attention on boss battles if Fluffy's been out at all today. So while we're waiting on that, let's look at the payrolls. Montreal, through 57 rounds at $113.4 million. Pittsburgh last 4 picks. Now, Portland took the chance on Snellzilla, so they shot up to 152 million. So Portland has spent 3/4 of their budget this season. And don't forget, they still got minor league personnel to fill in. So they got to be more cautious now after going on that gamble. All right, round 58 pick is in. Grant Taylor from the Arizona Diamondbacks will be selected. That's the 4th Diamondback selected. 24-year-old right-hander from Florence, Alabama. He was a 3rd-round draft pick back in 2022. Low mid-90s. Traditional 4-pitch pitcher. Pitches more reliably on the slider. Fastball-slider combination works as curveball changeup. Again, he could probably use some improvement on those pitches, but if we go by A-plus ball, he's got some talent. 10-5, 2.18 ERA, and a sub-1 whip, which always translates to potential. At this point, again, why not take gambles on players like this? Give them an opportunity, and they may reward you. Grant Taylor will head to Portland. Pick is in to finish round 58. It will be Harry Langford from the 1.0 universe from El Segundo in California. The 21-year-old right-hander throws hard. He is the final Met coming off the board, if I remember correctly here. He was 1-0 for Binghamton this year in 5 appearances. 4 were starts, sub-3 ERA. Throws 5 pitches. Don't call him a 5-pitch specialist, though. He throws a fastball. Slider's probably his next best pitch, and it's graded at average. So if there's anything Langford needs to work on, is having a better repertoire of pitches to this point. But he could be a back-end type of starter, or you might rely on him more as a reliever, where he'll probably ramp up a little bit more. He did, again, in A-plus ball for Salt Lake City. He went 7-3. With a 3.65 ERA and struck out pretty much a batter every inning. So Mets are done. Langford gone. 2nd pick for the Astros to start the 59th round. And they will go after Skyler. Well, can I type? Let's try it this way. Skyler Messick from Baltimore. That'll be Baltimore's 4th selection. Messick is a 6'5", 22-year-old right-hander from Tinley Park, Illinois. Pitched for St. Rita in college, 31st overall selection for him. That's St. Rita High School, excuse me. He was a 31st overall pick. He throws fastball, cutter, circle change, curve. Again, predominantly been a starter. Pitched for AA Bowie this season. He was 5-4 with a mid-4 ERA. 12 starts. Did my mic level go down? I don't know. Did it? I didn't touch a thing. Maybe I'm just speaking deeper. Maybe this is the Batman part of the show. Hello? Sounds fine. It must be you, Dynamic. All right. Over to the Stags. This is the final pick in the 50s. And holy crap, it's a Pittsburgh Pirate. Juan Navarro. Center fielder. Boo on... See, you can always rely on Billy being quiet until he wants to heckle me. And then, then he'll come out and get his fanfare, and then he'll lurk back in the shadows. All right. So Navarro, 22-year-old outfielder, probably better corner outfielder. He's capable, but I would say he's probably a better corner outfielder than a center fielder at this point. Has some speed, not enough, say average speed at best, but he's at least smart enough on the stolen bases. He'll get you a handful, maybe a little more. And again, he's got enough potential to be average, maybe above average, could be that pleasant surprise. Look at where we're drafting here. We're drafting in the 59th round. This is not a bad kind of guy. I told you they'd be fighting over my guys in the 60s. Well, the second Pittsburgh Pirate has been drafted before the 60th round. It's now round number 60. And we will start off the 60th round with the Portland Stags making their selection. They will go after a 1.0er George Lynch, who pitched in AAA El Paso this past year with a 2 ERA, 7 saves in a setup role predominantly. Ground ball specialist that can throw upper 90s, touching 100. Fastball sinker combination with a slider change. Considering the fastball sinker gives him, and he's graded to be above average on his control, is a great thing. Still is potentially prone to giving up the long ball, although that really wasn't an issue this year. Just 2 home runs allowed in 44 innings of work. Lynch, I think a great pick here at this point. Not a lot of history on his side. Just his short span in the majors. Last season, 2025, he was 1-1 in 14 innings of work. All right, Lynch selected by the Stags. Time for Montreal to make their picks. We've got just under 8 minutes before our next scheduled commercial, but you know what? Kicking that can down the road. We now got 12 and a half minutes. Still more than half of the teams are available still to be selected from. And now we're going to get to the halfway point. I think this is the 15th team off the board, as the Padres will have another player removed immediately, and it'll be Shamar Millette. Millette is a 22-year-old right-hander from Los Angeles, California. He was 3-0 this season with a mid-3 ERA in 22 appearances, couple starts in that instance. Threw pretty good, 1.16 whip. 57 strikeouts in 53 2/3. Throws the fastball, curve, changeup combination. Probably 2 of those pitches are competent out pitches. He has some swing and miss influence and has at least respectable control. He's more of a pitcher than a hurler, but he can be prone to the long ball. He did give up 6 home runs in 53 innings. So now the Padres' door is closed. And one more pick coming from Montreal. They will go after only the second Toronto Blue Jay off the board, and this will be the Colombian Jordan Diaz. Diaz, 26 years old. He played both for the Dodgers as well as the Blue Jays this season. He hit .247 with 2 home runs and 21 runs batted in over 640 at-bats. He's a .264 hitter, so he can hit for some average, just not a known power kind of guy, although you think he could hit a little bit more than that. Not a great defender. Might be better to consider on the corner, over on first base side possibly. But again, he's a bit of a doubles type of hitter. He can be patient. He can put bat on ball, so he could be still a potential kind of guy. He did have 15 doubles in 51 hits. So again, you give him a little more talent or a little more time, he could do like he did in 2025 when hitting a 788 OPS. It's pretty respectable. So that's not a bad find here this late to go after, and he's inexpensive too. All right, over to Portland. Their selection is in. Oops, put that instruction again, Dynamic, because you didn't have the right command. You used the 1 instead of the exclamation. Kevin Hernandez will be your second Cincinnati Red taken off the board now. I think all teams have at least 2 players selected now. That is affirmative. Cincinnati becomes the second. 25-year-old Kevin Hernandez from Venezuela. He pitched both for Louisville as well as Pittsburgh's Indianapolis this season. When you look at Louisville, he was 0-7, but he had a 3.5 ERA in 8 appearances. That's not a bad pitcher. That is not a bad pitcher at all. That is more unlucky, is the way to look at it. Not graded to be a big type of player. He's got at least average swing and miss capabilities. He's got average to slightly above average control. He's about average to below average in regards to keeping the ball in the park. He has had a couple of opportunities, so still, he's only about halfway. He's still got more than half of his first year of overall service. So he's 2-3 lifetime with an ERA under 7. Here's the problem. He's a $4 million pitcher that you're taking a gamble on. JR says, yes, take that $4 million. Tyler Bradshaw is off the boards. Attica. That is, we'll call that your fourth pirate of the day.
Go!
I know, you're working as best you can. Why I offered to send a file if you guys have wanted it. So here is what you see without seeing the finances. These are the best possible players available. Some of them have some very hefty price tags to them. Yeah, Bradshaw was the first Cincinnati Red taken off the board. Yeah, half the league has been removed from the pool. 822 players remain of the remaining 15 teams. I will say the teams that have more than one player still to be drafted at this point. Tampa has 2 more to be drafted. Toronto 3. Atlanta 2. Cincinnati 3. Colorado 3. Miami 3. Pittsburgh 3. And Washington 2. The ones that have just one player left: Baltimore, Boston, White Sox, Royals, Diamondbacks, Cubs, and Giants. Pick is in. And this will remove Baltimore from the equation, as Rafael Lopez from the 1.0 era has been selected. He's a 24-year-old from the Dominican, ground ball pitcher. Pitched for AA Bowie this past year, 3-2, 7 saves, low 2 ERA. Not bad for him. The whip of 1.08 suggests he can pitch. The knock on him, he doesn't have a really legitimate third pitch. The changeup does not deceive many people because it doesn't take enough speed on it to fool people. All you have to do is think fastball, and even if he throws changeup, he doesn't take enough off of it to be much of a threat. Still, at this point in the game, you have people that you're drafting here with no service time, no salary, so you're non-committal to them yet until you put them in the 40-man roster and on the majors. This is a fine acquisition here for the Stags. 62nd pick. So Baltimore is now done. We now got 14 teams left. Next selection is now for the Expos. And it will be the last from the Cubs. Steve Meredith, which means Brendan Rodgers is not going anywhere. It's the Cubs. They can afford Brendan Rodgers. Steve Meredith, 25-year-old from Glenside, Pennsylvania. He's from that hotbed of junior college hotness. Yavapai College. We've seen some major names come out of there in our drafts. This is a 7th-round draft pick back in 2022 from Yavapai. He had 22 home runs this past season. He just can't hit a lick. He's got a 194 average, and they grade him, They grade him at a, maybe if he was a 20/80 scale, they'd grade him at a 20 to 30 at best in regards to his contact ability. But when he hits that ball, he puts so much bat speed on it. He can drive the gaps. He can definitely hit some home runs, as he's shown at 24 doubles, 22 homers, which means he only had 25 singles. So yeah, a guy hitting 194 that has 774 OPS potential. It's a guy who can hit. Why not take a chance? Oh, by the way, he's a catcher who calls a pretty darn good game. So, not a bad risk to take on a 25-year-old that may serve some purpose but will provide some depth. All right, so Cubs are out. Next pick is in. Will be Sergio Reyna, which will close out the other Chicagoan organization as the 5th White Sox has been drafted. It's the 22-year-old Panamanian Sergio Reyna, possible starter. He was A-ball Kannapolis this past season, 8-9 with a 2.95 ERA and 147 strikeouts, which is almost a 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, so he can throw very hard, and he has enough movement to keep that ball down. But again, a bit of your hurler more than pitcher. Throws a fastball, curveball, and the 2 forms of changeup that he works don't really translate into anything special. He really needs to harness those secondary pitches in order to be a threat. But again, this is a guy who will turn 23 early next season. Why not take a flyer on somebody who shows significant potential? Reyna, drafted by the Expos. Again, both Chicago organizations are now done. We'll go right over to Attica and Portland, and he will remove another team off the boards. Terry Johnson, reliever, will be drafted by Portland from the Red Sox. Red Sox are off the boards. TJ had a mid-3 ERA for the White Sox this past year. He struck out more than one batter every inning he was in. Good control for a guy who throws in the upper 90s, touching 100. He's got decent movement on that fastball. It's the curve and the slider that need a little extra work, but he works more of a 2-seamer in with the fastball. It works in on the right-handers, which makes him tough to hit in those instances. Another good risk to take here. It's a guy who has salary but no service time, so you got to think TJ will be an immediate benefactor of this expansion draft and have a solid opportunity to show what he can do at the majors. Okay. Next selection is in 90 seconds before the commercial. And it will be Juan Vaca. Or is he Juan Vacay? Maybe he wants a vacation. Vaca, the 22-year-old right-hander from the Dominican. He pitched mostly an A- ball Auburn this past year. 0.77 ERA in 25 appearances. That's 35 innings of work, striking out 52. Graded to have some excellent control for a mid-90s fastball, but he works a changeup very deceptively in while being okay on his secondary pitches. So this is a guy that if you can continue to develop him, this is the type of player that I think really surprises you in what he could do even in a back end of a rotation down the road. All right, he is in, and we will quickly go to the one last pick before we take the break. And we will go over to another Washington National, which I think closes them out. Tommy Diliberti. Yep, Nationals will now be closed out. Tommy Diliberti, the 27-year-old corner outfielder. He's got good potential. Not the biggest contact guy, but he can hit for power. He can drive bases. He can steal a few bases. And he's not going to be a terrible disappointment in regards to his ability out in the outfield. With that, let's take our next commercial. Feel like it's all it's been today, but you know, that's how it goes when you stream for near 5 hours. It is the Fluffy Kitty Ninja Show. We will be right back. We are getting closer and closer to being done. Please don't go anywhere. We are coming back live. The 2027 eMLB expansion draft continues. We enter the 65th round. Don't you feel like this is an episode of like watching basketball and explaining how the teams can advance here? That's what it's starting to feel like for me. Sergio Facundo from Pittsburgh will be your first selection here in the 65th round. Facundo played for A-plus ball this past year, 244 average, 8 home runs, 45 runs batted in. Kind of offers a little bit of everything, but nothing too stellar. Offense grades out his average potential. Speed is a little bit above average. Good arm, might be a better right fielder than left fielder. A little bit of question mark on his throwing accuracy, though, which makes him somewhat prone to error. So we'll see. Again, Facundo, 23-year-old from Dominican, selected here by Pittsburgh, which will now give Portland 2 selections to do here. On our board, we are now getting to the point of it's who can you take teams from. In the American League, just 3 teams are left to be drafted from. That is Kansas City with 1 more player. Tampa Bay can have 2 players selected, and the Toronto Blue Jays have 3 more players to be selected. in the National League. Arizona with 1 player left. Atlanta, 2 players. Cincinnati, Colorado, and Miami with 3 players left to be picked. Pirates, after Facundo, have 2 players left. And San Francisco with 1 more player to be taken. Attica, that is now your 5th Pirate. Carlos Irigoyen was taken about 15 rounds ago.
Go!
So while he figures that out, as he keeps picking players that have been long gone, $156.5 million now in Stag's payroll, which puts them in the middle. Was he taken by Attica? Wow. So Attica's trying to draft the same guy that he drafted earlier. Aren't you writing this stuff down? Meanwhile, the Expos have really stymied their payroll, barely $115 million. It might be the Platinum Pirate. Juan Vargas of the Miami Marlins, not of the San Francisco Giants. Vargas, 23-year-old right-hander, throws upper 90s with that fastball, throws a curveball slider, not his specialties. He has a little bit of everything. He can throw, get you to swing and miss. He can definitely work the ball in movement. A+ Florida, he was a 4.25 ERA in 11 starts, 15 total appearances. Only struck out 45 batters in that instance, so that is not what we would expect for a guy upper 90s. Again, the question mark on him is his real commitment and his real, going fully invested. We'll see if a change of scenery can help with that. Vargas going from Miami over to Portland. All right, Portland's 2nd pick. Mr. Mandatory pick. Yes, least wanted guy in baseball. Yeah. Portland's 2nd pick is in, and it's Doriano Rebellin from Toronto. That means 3 players picked. Mr. Irrelevant expansion, perhaps. Doriano is from Toronto. Upper 90s. He did mostly relief this past season for AAA Buffalo. 1-3 with a 3.82 ERA, 3 saves to his credit as well. Has pretty solid movement. He didn't allow a home run this past season in 33 innings of work. He struck out almost a batter in that time, but the walks have been a question for him. That's something he will still need to continue to work on, but this is a guy that you could possibly look at as a starter, as Toronto had, or you could throw him into the bullpen and see if he can offer you a little bit more in shorter spurts. All right, Rebellin is gone. 2nd pick of round 66. Guess what? We're within 10 rounds of being done, gang. Davy Jones from Atlanta has been selected. The 22-year-old from Pleasant Grove, Alabama, will see you in his locker, kid. Upper 90s, can touch 100 pretty solidly, throws at a tremendous fastball. Likes to focus more on the stuff with speed, fastball, splitter, forkball. Does throw a slider, not his best pitch. Really suggests he avoid the changeup. We don't allow you to remove the pitch, though, because then that would provide an unfair advantage for adding a pitch. But 28 appearances for AA Mississippi this year. Jones was 10-9, but an ERA of 2.76 and had 201 strikeouts and 173 innings of work. Again, this type of guy that you can take a chance on. There's so little expectation on him, but he could have a lot of opportunity to offer. And you're not surprised that Davy Jones is a leader in the locker room, right? See you in Davy Jones's locker. I mean, what more obvious experience do you need? Come on. All right, Montreal. Well, I love that Attica is ready to go. He forgets that there are 2 picks, and the pick was just made for him by Montreal, closing out the Braves. Dave Dodd. Both play, I look right, and both guys say Dave Dodd. From Paradise, California, the 22-year-old pitched for A-Ball Rome last year, 10-4 with a 2.5 ERA and 19 saves. So the guy started, he closed, he pitched 100 innings, and he struck out 155 batters. Sidearm specialist. Boom. Fastball slider combination. Changeup could use a little work. He definitely will influence some swing and miss. Can he keep the ball over the plate? And can he keep the ball in the park? Those are the specific focuses that we need. But he's a pretty nice guy. He never said a bad word about anyone, even me, unlike all of you, you bullies. Dave Dodd will round out the Atlanta Braves organization. So now Attica makes his next selection. And he will go and get rid of the Kansas City Royals off the board. He'll go after the shortstop, Ben Roberts. Roberts, not a stolen base guy in any way, shape, or form. Not really an offensive-minded guy, but a potentially capable defensive type of focus. So again, never seen we've seen a 20 speed, 1 steal rating guy in the majors. Now, do we possibly in the future see a 13 speed, 1 steal, 1 base running guy in the majors? That sounds like a scary combination. So this past year, he played mostly in rookie ball, hitting .305, 3 homers, and 21 runs batted in. But again, only 1 stolen base in 4 attempts. Royals are off the board now. Now it becomes, who do you go after? And kind of make sure that the opponent doesn't have any more opportunity there. Now get Arizona off the board as Eric Brock, another 22-year-old who pitched in A-Ball Kannapolis. Had 30 saves and a sub-2 ERA this past season. 77 innings of work and 71 strikeouts in that time. Focus is on the fastball, curveball that he throws. Doesn't have enough of a pitching assortment to really be a starter, but he has the stamina and the workhorse mentality that he could be one of your rubber arms out of the bullpen pretty regularly. All right, Montreal is up for 2. We are in the 68th round, heading into the 69th round. Okay, as of this moment, just as a heads up, these are the only teams that you can pick from. In the American League, Tampa has 2 picks to take. Toronto has 2 teams to picks to take. In the National League, San Francisco, 1 player left. Pittsburgh, Miami, 2 players left. Cincinnati and Colorado, 3 players left as of this moment. This guy shocks me. Daniel Espino, the one-time Kansas City Royal, who looked like what we saw Captain Barbosa as. There's a history of Kansas City starters who get injured that could have had a major career. They could have been a contender. Espino getting back into the majors after that major injury for his first time in a while and just getting 5 innings of work. Not rated anywhere near what they think he was capable of once upon a time in his Kansas City days when we first started going with live GMs. But Espino throws upper 90s, still with plenty of swing and miss capabilities. Fastball, sliders, 2 predominant pitches. Just can't throw over the plate like he did once before. When you look at what his story was, if I remember right, he walked less than 3. That number is creeping up. This number is not going to stay in that level. That is a definite. But Daniel Espino is a good low-risk flyer guy to take a chance on here this late in the game. This was once an ace type of player. Maybe he still could be if given a chance. We'll see. All right, round 69 will start. You thought Espino would go way earlier. Yep. Shane Shiflett from the Colorado Rockies. He is a switch hitting middle infielder. He's got outfield experience, so you consider Shane to be a mix of a super utility type of player, at least a utility. Definitely speed, respectable defense. He can hit you some gappers, and he can definitely make people work. He was a 300 hitter with 3 homers and 17 RBI in AAA Albuquerque, over 200 plus at bats this season, and the year prior he had 10 home runs while hitting near 280. So Shiflett, good gamble for a guy that's never played in the majors yet. So a 28-year-old could be highly motivated to try to make an impact here with the Expos. All right, Colorado's pick. This is the final pick of the 69th round. And it will be from the Cincinnati Reds, Joey Fernandez, J-Fern, as he's known, the Cuban. Can play the corners well, might be better as a first baseman than a third baseman, just not the biggest reactions over at the hot corner. But he has some good tools to offer on the offensive side and decent speed for a guy who's 6'4", 200 pounds. He did steal 12 stolen bases in 19 attempts for A-ball Dayton once upon a time. Now here playing an A-plus ball this past season. Just 6 home runs, 22 RBI with a 232 average. Again, this is a 69th round pick with 0 service time. Why not take a gamble on a guy that could serve some value? All right, we go into round number 70. We're going to try to get this done before the next commercial. And we go over to Pittsburgh. Billy Hart. Hart is selected. He is the 4th Pirate to be selected. Guy who's got good swing and miss ability with an upper 90s fastball. He has a pretty solid knuckle curve. It's the other 2 pitches that probably really cost him an opportunity to be a respectable starter. They're still giving him the try, and in A-ball he did well, but he might just be too far seasoned at this point for A-ball talent that it would be the real test in the next levels. He struck out 170 batters this season, which is more than 10 per 9 innings. All right, Hart selected by the Stags. We will go to Montreal for 2 more picks. We are almost done, gang. Your patience and sticking around with me through this has been greatly appreciated, as this is brand new territory for us. From Toronto, going over to Montreal, it will be Sam Weingartner. Rowan Gardner, you're in there. What do you call me? Rosenbacher. Is this our guy? Gardenhoser, you're going to Montreal. What do you call me? 26-year-old from California was a 5th-round draft pick back in 2022. He pitched pretty well here, AAA, but he didn't get a chance in the rotation. He was 2-1 with a 1.87 ERA in 33 2/3 innings of work, with a whip below 1.1, or not below 1.13. That's pretty respectable in itself. Does have a penchant for throwing, hitting fly balls, though, so we'll see if that works. Fastball, curveball, slider. You can't really say he's a traditional 4-pitch pitcher because the changeup doesn't fool anybody. He just throws way too hard and still doesn't know how to mirror it well enough that when he does, when you can figure out a changeup is coming, it's too predictable from his arm motions. So Weingartner has been selected. And we will go on to the second pick here. It's in the 70th round. We are so close to being done. Israel Osorio, 1.0 player from Venezuela. Another of your traditional can hit it long when he can hit the ball at all type of players. Now he's an interesting mix. He's a first baseman who could be a backup emergency type of catcher in an oh-crap situation. But he's got good home run potential. He had 13 home runs for AA Chattanooga this year while hitting 246. Think if a guy hits 246 in 280 at-bats with 13 homers, You're like, okay, mid-20s for home runs. I could live with that. Could be a good player. He was a third-round draft pick back in 2022. I think at this point, there were better players drafted later in that round than how Osorio's turned out. All right, so we're getting ready for the 71st pick here, or the 300, what are we talking, 142nd pick overall? Yes. We're getting there. And it is from Toronto, Dangilver Gonzalez, 24-year-old Venezuelan, will be selected. Probably more of a reliever type. He did pitch briefly, so he got 5 2/3 scoreless innings that he did for the Blue Jays here this past season. So he has a very small pedigree, but he did pitch in New Hampshire this season for the Fisher Cats. They had a sub-2 ERA in 31 innings of work. So Gonzalez, I believe, is the last of the Blue Jays to be selected. So we have just one team left remaining in the American League. 2 Tampa Bay Rays. That surprises me. I thought Tampa would not be the last team, honestly. That was my thought. The only team that has more than one player still to be drafted is the Colorado Rockies. All right. Portland's making their 72nd round pick. And it will be from Cincinnati since he's off the board. Mel Henderson. Another one of those guys that loves to go long. He's not a great first baseman, but he'll provide average defense there. Guy that if he can hit over 200, it's a plus. But if he can hit the home runs as he did, he had 21 home runs in rookie ball back in 2024. So he can definitely go long. He's a 19th round draft pick back in 2022. All right. Here is what's left, real quick, of the possible top players. Some are injured. Well, Garrett Cole's always injured. Rob Stratton's even injured. All right, pick is in. And it is from the Tampa Bay Rays. If I can get my filter to work right, dang it. Jorge Zarate. From the Dominican, 24-year-old, decent control for mid-90s work. He's a pretty hard worker, just not considered the most athletic individual. Fastball, curveball, slider combination. Curves probably best that he works, just a slightly different angle than the slider does, so it's not a 12-6 motion. Good move over to first for the left-hander. Again, this season he was 10-8 in A-plus ball. In 27 appearances, that was 175 innings of work. Zarate leaves one more player from the American League to be drafted here before we're done. We've got 6 players left. Second pick here is Don Kuhn. That is from Miami. Don Kuhn Jr. to be exact. Kuhn is a 24-year-old who played in Double-A ball this past season. A-plus ball mostly with Jupiter. 205 average, 5 homers, 29 RBIs. Solid arm defensively. A really, really good arm. He'll play very good third base, and he loves, you'll see him on the field working very much prior to games. Working the defense especially. He's not going to be a disappointment on the base paths when he runs. He's got good speed, at least for a third baseman. And again, from an offensive standpoint, he's got some talent. He'll hit for a little bit of pop. I wouldn't say he's a 20 home run hitter, but if you gave him 500 at bats, I wouldn't be surprised mid-high teens in regards to home runs. Don Kuhn Jr. drafted here by Montreal. All right, Portland's pick. It'll be the last player from the American League to be drafted. Ismael Barranquilla, the 23-year-old from Puerto Rico. Not a fast guy at all. Catcher. very traditional catcher in regards to the speed is not his thing. Whether it's knee problems or not, we don't know. But he did hit for 330 and A- ball, going 2 levels up. It dropped down to 240. So can he hit for some offense? He could. He definitely could. Again, where are we? We're in the 73rd round. That's not a bad play to go for here. All right, real quick. We got 2 rounds left. Let's do a final recap of where we are financially right now. Expos haven't moved the needle much. 114 million. They might be saving it for off-season free agency, although you see they don't have a lot of cash to work on that. They do have a fair amount of money for extensions, though, if that is where their focus might be. For Portland, meanwhile, mid-156 million. No money on free agency, so they won't be a factor there. They do have plenty of money for extensions if that is their focus. All right, so Portland, your second pick, second to last pick. Again, the teams that are eligible: 2 from Colorado, 1 from Pittsburgh, 1 from San Francisco. Here is your list. You're now down to 199 players. This is Portland's pick right now, Ken. All right, Dave Morgan from Colorado, a 1.0 name. Morgan, Colorado Springs native, drafted by Wichita State as 2nd round 2021. Good defender, good doubles type of hitter. Everything else kind of grades out as average for him. This past season in Double-A ball, he hit 283 with 8 homers and 50 runs batted in. So he does have some capability. Again, he's just probably more suited to be a role player here than anything else. He's a decent, smart player. Again, probably not your best defender, but has a pretty respectable arm. So he will definitely earn some respect if he's given a regular chance out there. All right, these are the Expos 2 final selections here. We got through the whole flipping thing. And it will be... Oh, wait, hold on. Colorado has 1 more player left. Oh, you know what? I screwed it up. I did have him. I just had the filter on for batters. Final Rocky selected, Giovanni Cruz. Cruz did pitch for the Rockies this season, 22 innings of work, 2-2 with a 3.5 ERA. He has a couple seasons in the majors, but only 61 service days, so still plenty of time to control the 27-year-old Dominican. Throws low mid-90s, works a sinker, slider, changeup combination. He's a respectable player. And remember, he's pitched in Colorado. So now you're going to send him over to Montreal. That might be a plus for him. Final round. Fueston is gone. Fueston was taken earlier. He waited 75 rounds, but Ken Buttram finally has a Pirate.
Go!
142 players left. Only Pittsburgh and San Francisco can be picked on. You made it all the way to the end, yes. Ken's making his last pick. The guy he put in was already taken. So you can only pick from Pittsburgh or San Francisco at this point. He will go after San Francisco. It will be Antonio Cruz, 27-year-old, who played 2 seasons in Triple-A here. He went 237, 4 home runs, 16 RBI. Not fast. He's got some offense. He's not a power hitter. He's at least respectable up the middle. Probably better suited to being a second baseman for his overall talents than anything, but a guy who has shown he has some ability. Did steal 21 bases once before. So Antonio Cruz is your final player selected by the Expos in this expansion draft. And the final pick from Attica can only be a Pirate. You've got 70 choices. Ken, nice work today. Thank you very much for your time and energy. We appreciate it. Final pirate has been selected, and it will be Jacil de la Cruz. 29-year-old right-hander from Jaramayor in the Dominican. He did pitch in the majors this season, 14 innings of work. It was not pretty. ERA of 7.5 with a whip of 1.64. That has been a bit of the knock on him, is that he is a bit hittable. Not a lot of movement on his ball. That's what she said. And control. Pretty much for 3 pitches, specializes in the fastball and the slider. So wouldn't consider him a starter in any stretch of the imagination at the major league level. Jacil de la Cruz, you are Mr. Irrelevant in our first ever expansion draft. 5 hours and 20 minutes with maybe, 30, 40 minutes of that a mess thanks to Attica's chronic sleeping pattern. Not to pick on you, Attica, but again, it drew out everything a little bit longer. All right, gang, we are going to get on out of here back to the litter box. I'm going to go, especially after this one. Fluff Kitty Ninjas do assassinate, and you're looking at their victim. So next time I can find some glue and tape, I'll put my head back on straight. We'll be back in front of you at some point, hopefully later this week. We've got a lot of background work to do before we get committal on that once again, so this could be a little bit of a weird week. But again, biggest announcement we did earlier today, we are confirming that eMLB Winter League will be in Korea this season. We'll be pulling up stadiums from the Korean baseball organization that we'll be doing action in. But for now, Commish LB says, how you think directs your life. When you think your best, you'll be your best. So go do your best, especially after 5.5 hours. Man, it's been a hard one. We'll see you soon. Peace!
You jackass!